You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So who is behind Yasin Willis? Well, that is Will Nixon. And I think he is the perfect complement to a guy like Yasin Willis. 5'11", 200 pounds, redshirt senior. So he's smaller and he's also more experienced than Yasin Willis. But I'll get to the smaller part in just a second. I don't say that necessarily as a bad thing. Will Nixon is the son of Syracuse offensive coordinator Jeff Nixon, and he transferred to Syracuse from Washington ahead of the 2024 season. And we didn't really get to see much of Will Nixon a year ago. And it's unfortunate because I think he was playing quite well. And I'll get to it in just a second. But played in 3 games, 19 carries, 76 yards. So exactly 4 yards per carry. Also had 4 catches for 44 yards. The reason why Will Nixon only played 3 games, therefore preserving his red shirt, he was able to take a medical red shirt and come back for this season. He broke his left foot in the Holy Cross game, and he got surgery on it as well. So we do have to keep that in mind with a guy like Will Nixon. Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be ready to go up to speed for week 1 against Tennessee? I think so, based on what I'm reading online, but you never know. It's something that we definitely have to monitor with a guy like Will Nixon coming off of a foot injury. But assuming that he's healthy, again, he's the perfect complement to Yasin Willis. For those that don't know, Will Nixon started his collegiate career as a wide receiver at Nebraska. If you're good enough to be recruited by a Big Ten program like Nebraska to play wide receiver, that means you can catch the football. Will Nixon is a better pass-catching running back than a guy like Yasin Willis. And again, Yasin Willis, he did flash at times during the season that he could catch passes, but Will Nixon is probably better served for that role. I view it as as Yasin Willis is kind of the thunder. He's your thumper. He's your short yardage back. He's someone who can definitely play first, second down, and third and short. But then first, second, third, and long, you're probably looking at a guy like Will Nixon. And here's a take for you all. And this is how I tease this segment. So here we go. Get ready for it. Last year, Syracuse football had a returning player on its roster that seemingly came out of nowhere. And this player just so happened to also be coming off an injury. That player was Trevor Pena. I did not see Trevor Pena having the year that he ended up having. I know it sucks that he left the program, especially in the manner that he did and what happened online following it. But if we're going back to last season and we're talking about the positives, Trevor Pena was a huge surprise, a huge breakout star. I don't know if really anyone really saw this coming, except for maybe Trevor Pena and this coaching staff, and maybe I guess the rest of the football team for that matter, but I certainly didn't. He ended up becoming second team All ACC. So why am I talking about Trevor Pena so much? Well, if you look up and down the roster for Syracuse football, who is that veteran player that you think could be a surprise? Someone who maybe has more to give than what they have shown so far, because maybe the opportunity hasn't quite been there for them, or maybe they've been dealing with injuries. I think it's Will Nixon. Will Nixon, it's a short sample in his career. It's not big, but he averages 5 yards per carry. He was a second string running back for a team that played in the national title 2 years ago, Washington. They lost to Michigan. So am I projecting that Will Nixon is going to be this year's Trevor Pena? Not necessarily, because I think it's nearly impossible to make that type of prediction. But when I look up and down the roster, who could have that type of impact? Why not Will Nixon? Because I think he's got more to give than maybe what his stats say, because he hasn't really quite had the opportunities. And unfortunately, he's dealt with injuries.